How's it going, everyone? Roslyn here. If you're a fan of the Kiseki franchise, then you may be aware that with the latest entry into the mainline series, a number of changes have been made. While many of these changes, such as the alignment system or the notion that the main character is more mature than previous ones, are largely superficial. One aspect that is not though, and happens to be the topic of today's video, is the battle system, which has undergone a number of fairly drastic changes. To help explain how the system works in detail, I'll be breaking the video down into sections, starting with a brief overview of the system as a whole before taking a look at its individual parts, and then ending with a walkthrough of a battle from start to finish. Finally, do note that some terminology will be used that I will not fully elaborate on in this video. This mainly includes hollow core abilities, and shard skills. These terms will be explained in detail in a separate video covering the new court system in Kuro no Kiseki. Kuro no Kiseki's battle system can be broken down into two parts, or phases: field battle and command battle. All encounters that aren't forced on the player due to being a boss fight, or a fight initiated as part of a story or side quest, start in the field battle phase. In this phase, you fight enemies on the map like you would in a traditional action RPG, attacking them with your weapon for damage and dodging out of the way of their attacks. It's a simple phase that is mainly suited for setting up the command battle phase, which can be activated at any time by hitting the corresponding button. For me it's R2, but since you can customize the controls, it may be different for you. Once in the command battle phase, Kuro no Kiseki's battle system starts to resemble previous entries by switching over to a turn-based battle system, granting you access to crafts, arts, items, and more. As stated in the brief overview, most non-story and non-boss encounters will begin in the field battle phase. While in this phase, you will control one character with the rest of your party being controlled by the AI. The tools and information at your disposal in the field battle phase are rather limited. You can see the HP, CP, and S boost status of your AI-controlled companions in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, and the HP and CP status of your controlled character just beneath their character model. Attacking enemies with your controlled character will do damage to them and increase your charge attack meter. Once full, you can unleash a charge attack on the enemy for more damage by hitting the corresponding button. Aside from normal attacks and charged attacks, the only other options you really have in this phase is to dodge enemy attacks or switch characters. Dodging enemy attacks is pretty simple. When the enemy starts to glow yellow, that is the signal that an attack is incoming, so move out of the way or hit your dodge button. If you successfully dodge with the dodge button at the last second, you will be awarded with a full charge attack gauge. As for switching characters, there are a few reasons you may wish to do so. One of those reasons is damage type. Agnes, for example, uses an orbital staff, and thus her normal and charged attacks deal magic damage, whereas Vaughn's deal physical damage. Another reason to switch characters is to give yourself an easier time dodging enemy attacks. This is because some characters have attack animations that can lock you into those animations for a pretty decent period of time, making it more difficult to dodge enemy attacks. But the primary reason you may wish to change characters is because whoever you are controlling in the field battle phase will get to act first, regardless of their speed stat, when you activate command battle. Now by this point you are probably wondering, what is the point of the field battle phase? I mean, you can't use crafts, you can't cast arts, all you can really do is attack and dodge. And on top of that, the actual amount of damage you deal is only a fraction of what can be dealt in a command battle. So what is the point? Well, the answer to that lies in the last two things I haven't touched on yet: Shard and the stun meter. Shard is a button that you can hit at any time you are considered to be engaged with an enemy, and doing so will convert the battle to a command battle. And the stun meter is a meter that fills up above the enemy's health bar that, once full, will stun the enemy in place for a few seconds. The primary function of the field battle system is the combination of these two things. While you can activate command battle at any time by hitting the Shard button, it is infinitely more beneficial to stun the enemy first. Doing so will give you an advantage attack, providing all sorts of bonuses, such as dealing a large chunk of damage to all enemies engaged, delaying all engaged enemies by a significant amount, and triggering any Shard skills your characters have that activate when deploying the Shard. Simply put, using field battles to stun enemies before deploying the Shard to activate command battles will turn all but the beefiest of enemies into literal punching bags. Once you've deployed the Shard, you'll enter the command battle phase. This phase is turn-based like previous entries in the series, and will be the most familiar to longtime fans. One major difference you will notice though, is that you can now move about the battlefield freely without taking up a character's action. Do note, however, that the distance a character can move is still determined by their movement stat. You also can't walk through enemies or your other party members. But other than that, you can freely move around to position yourself, something that is actually fairly important as some crafts actually have positional conditions on them that, if met, increase their damage. However, I think the best way to tackle an explanation of the command battle phase is to go over each part of the UI. Starting in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, you can see the HP, EP, CP, and any buffs or debuffs each of your current party members have. One thing you can't see here because I'm using an earlier save file in order to avoid spoilers, and thus don't have access to them yet, are shields. Shields are a new type of buff in Kuro no Kiseki that some characters have on their crafts. Essentially, they give a character an extra HP bar worth of damage that they can take, usually in the value of 2 to 4,000 damage. Whenever a character has a shield on them, the HP bar in the upper left hand corner of the screen will rotate between the shield's remaining HP and the character's remaining HP. Moving on, let's look at the lower left hand portion of the screen. You will notice 4 icons with a corresponding button beside them. These represent normal attack, crafts, arts, and items. Hitting one will bring up the menu letting you select from a list. For example, in this screenshot I am on the normal attack option, and to the right I have normal attack and guard. At this point I can use the up or down directional buttons to choose which action I wish to take, and then hit circle to take that action. If I instead choose to hit R1, I will bring up the crafts menu. Doing so will let me use the up and down directional buttons again to sift through my crafts, and a small indicator for my character's current CP value is conveniently provided. This menu also provides a bunch of at-a-glance information on each craft. To the left of a craft's name, you can see a small icon. This icon lets you know what type of craft it is. For example, a blue flame indicates a craft that deals magic damage, the white star indicates a buff, the red whatever that is indicates an S-craft, and the yellow whatever that is indicates a physical damaging craft. To the right of the craft's name, you can see the CP cost, its damage class, or the stat it increases for buffs. A simple tile indicator letting you know if a craft is a cone, line, circle, etc. is also provided. And finally, a brief description of whatever the craft is you currently have selected is also provided to the right. Hitting circle here will then execute that craft. For the arts menu, everything is basically the same, except swap the CP values for EP, and swap the icon that indicates the attack type to one that indicates the element for the art being used. Do note that you must position your craft or art before hitting the circle button to execute it. Moving on, but still staying in the lower left-hand portion of the screen, we have the S-boost meters, which fill up anytime you deal damage or take damage in battle. The maximum number of S-boost meters that you can have at the start of a battle are 3, and anytime you use an S-craft, this limit is increased by 1 up to a maximum of 8, and all extra meters gained in battle are then lost at the end of battle. S-boosting has numerous benefits, but before I explain those, let me just go over the restrictions. First, whenever you use an S-boost by hitting L1 during the command battle phase, only the character whose turn it currently is will receive the boost. Second, the maximum boosts that a character can have at any one time are 2. And finally, third, the duration of the boost is dependent on how many boosts the character has. Use 1 boost and it lasts for 2 turns, and use 2 boosts and it lasts for 3 turns. So what benefits does using S-boost provide? Well, for starters, S-boosting is required to use a character's S-craft. Specifically, they must use 2 S-boosts in order to do so. Unlike in previous games, S-crafts do work differently in Kuro no Kiseki. They no longer use all of your CP. Instead, they use a flat 100 CP, but now require the character to be under the effect of 2 S-boosts. What this means is that while you can no longer save up 200 CP to use on one S-craft for extra damage, you can now cast them twice in a row, or just use them once and save that extra CP for crafts. Another benefit of S-boosting comes in the form of shard skills. Shard skills that a character has access to have a chance of activating depending on the situation, such as ones that trigger off of normal attacks and crafts, or ones that can trigger off of arts. You can see icons telling you which shard skills can be triggered in the lower left-hand portion of the screen just to the right of your S-boost meters. These icons will show a percentage which indicates their chance to trigger. Using S-boost will increase this percentage, with most shard skills increasing to a 100% chance to trigger when double boosted. The final benefit of S-boosting is to gain access to hollow core abilities. Depending on the hollow core equipped, a character will gain access to different passive abilities while they have at least 1 S-boost. At any time during a character's turn, you can hold down the L2 button in order to bring up a window providing you with additional information about that character. It is here that you can check how many S-boosts a character currently has, though they will also have a light blue aura around their character model when boosted. You can also double check what passive hollow core abilities that character will gain access to by using an S-boost. Looking at this screenshot, I can see that Vaughn currently has the Maya hollow core equipped and has 0 S-boosts. Below that information, I can see that using S-boost will provide him with a bunch of stat increases, increased chance to dodge and critically strike, increased physical and magic damage, as well as HP and EP regen. Continuing on, you will notice a box pop up on screen giving you a bit of information about whatever enemy you currently have selected, such as its level, HP, stun meter, and any elemental weaknesses it may have. You can also hit the trackpad to bring up a more detailed menu, providing more accurate stats, as well as showing an enemy's vulnerability to status ailments. Holding R2 down will bring up the familiar S-break screen, showing you who can jump in to use their S-craft, provided you have 2 S-boost meters, as well as the necessary CP available. Do note, however, that you can no longer use S-break to have a character come in and take beneficial turn bonuses, such as a guaranteed critical strike from another party member or enemy. These type of bonuses are now tied to a particular enemy or character, and shard skills are now required in order to prevent the enemy from benefiting from them. And speaking of turn bonuses, you can actually see the turn order and any bonuses your characters or enemies will receive at the top of the screen. If you hold down the L2 button, you will also be provided with a number under each character portrait to indicate exactly whose turn will be coming up next. The last 2 things to look at before moving on to the demonstration are the chain hit counter on the upper right hand corner of the screen and the light blue circles around your characters in battle. The chain hit counter shows how many times you've attacked the enemy since the last time that they got a turn, with higher hit counts providing a damage bonus. The blue circles are basically Kuro no Kiseki's version of links from the Cold Steel series, except unlike in the Cold Steel series, where you had to bring up a menu in order to change who a character was linked with in battle, here, all you need to do is move 2 characters close to each other before taking an action in battle. The benefits remain largely the same though, with things like the linked partner performing follow-up attacks, or boosting the damage of crafts and arts. Alright, so now that all of that is out the way, how about we take a look at a battle from start to finish in Kuro no Kiseki. Alright, so I've come out here to the field, we're going to engage this enemy here. We'll go ahead and attack, try to build up our charge meter while also building up the stun gauge on them. Charges up, use that, attack a little bit more, stun the enemy, deploy the shard, get my advantage attack and all my boosts. Okay, and I'm going to get over here close to Onius, so we're linked together. I'm going to go ahead and use my coin bullet. This is going to apply a attack down debuff on the enemies and also cause them to be more likely to target Vaughn due to the hate buff that it'll give him. This is just in case they do get the opportunity to attack, but they probably won't. Okay, and now with Adon, you can move him over here, close to Vaughn. That way they're linked. Just have him attack here, and then Vaughn will follow up. We have Vaughn do the same thing. Okay, and then we can show what boost is like. So right now I don't have any of these stats, the HP per turn and the extra increased damage, but if I use L1 to boost, she now gets 11% HP per turn, 20% physical and magic damage, as well as an increased 80% chance to hit. So we do that. We're over here, so she's linked with Adon. Another attack. He attacks. And that's one of her passive skills that she has. We'll go into shard skills in a separate video, but that had an increased chance to proc due to being boosted. And so for Onius, actually can go ahead and boost, and we can use a magic attack with her. We can have Adon attack again. And this is really the general flow of battle. Obviously, for boss battles, you would be a little bit more tactical about where you're positioning your characters and whatnot, but for a random encounter, this is really all there is to it. There are some more tougher enemies that will live long enough to break out of the delay that you get from the advantage attack, but most enemies can't, and you just kind of go through the game like that. So hopefully this video has been helpful and informative to you guys. Hopefully it gives you something to look forward to when this game finally does come out in the West. If you have any questions about Kuro no Kiseki, the battle system or any other game that I cover, do feel free to hit me up in the comment section below or over on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/RoslinGaming, or you can also hit me up on my Discord channel where I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing, and hope to see you next time when we go over the quartz system for Kuro no Kiseki.
Fever time だ。